Hey there, podcast listeners. This episode of JJ Meets World features Mr. Bill Brooks, a previous guest, but an all-new subject matter. We're going to talk about Tesla. Tesla. You're going to get some history. You're going to get a unique experience because we're going inside of his car for part of the podcast, and so many more great things. So strap in, put on your seatbelt, and get ready for some torque on this episode of JJ Meets World.
1, 2, 3, 4. J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirls as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called J.J. Meets World.
Vehicles in movies are almost as important as the characters themselves. In fact, sometimes the vehicles become the character in the movie. So, for example, when you think of Back to the Future, you're instantly thinking about the DeLorean with its wing-shaped doors. Heck, the DeLorean makes the poster for it. And when you watch people make those kind of nouveau posters in their own graphic design, I noticed that the DeLorean with the flames behind the wheels becomes iconic. The A-Team made a panel van cool. People think of all these different, Jurassic Park, a very specific style of Jeep comes to mind for most people.
Herbie the Love Bug.
Herbie the Love Bug. Oh, that little
guy.
That little guy. So movie vehicles, everyone's got a movie vehicle that they'd like. Ghostbusters, the Ecto-1. We could name these for over and over and over.
Did you know, fun fact, that Spider-Man actually had a Spider-Man vehicle at one point?
Did you really?
It's I want to say it was in the 70s. And the only way I know that is because, and it was like a little, it was like a Jeep, I guess. It was probably like an all-terrain vehicle, basically, but it was painted like Spider-Man's costume. And the only reason I know that is my dad gave me a calendar from the Centennial celebration from like 76 or whatever. And in the month of April, I believe, is the Spider-Man month, and they've got different little things on different dates, and it had R.I.P. Spider-Mobile, and it showed that he used to have this all-terrain vehicle that then got like dumped in the ocean and is just still in the ocean.
Like in the show?
In the comics. Like it's just down. He's like, I don't really need that. I am my own transport vehicle.
Poor Spidey.
Imagine Superman getting a car. Like, why do you need a car? You fly.
It's like old Clark Kent. So it's cool that you say that, because if Clark Kent were to get a car today, it would definitely be a Tesla. I feel like Clark Kent kind of cares about the environment, and it's also nouveau, and he could write an article about it for the Daily Planet. Our guest today is Bill Brooks. Interesting dude, because he's already been on our podcast before, but not talking about what we're going to touch on today, which is the Tesla automobile. We get into the history of it, the economic impact, and why Tesla actually is good for places like the state of North Dakota, a coal-producing state, because coal helps produce electricity, which powers the Tesla. Bill also lets us get into the Tesla.
So much fun.
So for the first time ever, we actually take the podcast out of the studio and hit the road.
That makes me think of, I think recently in the podcast, we talked about how in a sitcom, when they'd go out on a live location and the lighting would change and you could tell that this is different than the studio. I think you'll be able to tell too.
You will with the audio.
Yeah, absolutely.
The first part of the podcast is an interview with Bill, and then you'll note when we get into the vehicle and start going, there's a lot of torque with it.
Oh, man. So good.
It is a ton of fun, and I don't want to keep you from it. It's one of our longer episodes, but it really is the type of episode where you're going to be educated on the Tesla. And this isn't just some love letter. We're trying to sell you something. This is just to expose you to something that you may never have actually touched before.
We are not sponsored by Tesla.
We are not sponsored by Tesla. We are also not sponsored by any of the major automakers. It's possible we've been working on a deal with a scooter company, but odds are after this it's going to fall through.
But until then, I guess we'll just have to rely on our Patreon page,
That's right.
which is up and functioning right now. Patreon.com/JJ Meets World.
And if you're one of those Tesla believers, help us keep the lights on with this podcast and help us keep evangelizing for your vehicle by donating to our Patreon, jjmeetsworld.com/Patreon or patreon.com/JJMeetsWorld. You can get there either way.
So I used to work in poker television, and it was actually very recently that I had noticed this, is that oftentimes when poker players refer to, they're going to say, oh, I lost a bunch of money today. They'll say, I lost a Tesla today. Oh, I lost 2 Teslas today. Or I won a Tesla off of Phil Hellmuth today, because they just know that Tesla is a luxury item and it costs a lot of money and it's very desirable. So Tesla is as a term, is getting used in different ways. And it is such an iconic part of our culture right now, in that it's not just about the future, but it's also about at the moment luxury and new technology and things you never thought a car would be able to do before.
if it were a verb, if you said I Tesla'd today, what would that be?
That'd be what we did today with Bill Brooks.
Did we Tesla'd?
We Tesla'd all over this town with Bill Brooks.
Tesla'd. 3 men Tesla-ing in a vehicle together. I hope you guys really enjoy this one. It's a ton of fun. Bill Brooks, of course, from Fargo Pinball. Shout out to them. If you're looking to host a unique party, or maybe you just want to get to be a part of the pinball world, which is he must just collect subsects of the community. He's a part of this underground pinball community and the underground Tesla community. And apparently he also is really big into some very nerdy things. I'm not going to tell you what the name of his Tesla is. You got to listen for it. But there are going to be people out there who go like, oh, snap.
But you can usually see his Tesla parked outside of Fargo Pinball too.
Good call.
So if you want to just even drive by and just take a wink at it, but feel free to walk in, and he will probably let you drive it.
Yeah. Bill told us we could take it for the weekend, and so I feel like we could have a real fun trip where it's like JJ and Tucker and a Tesla.
I'm just so worried about ruining his Tesla.
Oh, me too. Me too, the whole time. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of JJ Meets World with Mr. Bill Brooks, no relation to Garth Brooks.
JJ Meets World.
Big podcast. It's the first time we've ever had one guest back for a second round. Bill Brooks, welcome back to JJ Meets World.
Well, I passed the first interview apparently, so I'm
You
glad
sure
to be
did.
here for a second one.
And we touched so much. If you haven't listened to it yet, Bill's first appearance on JJ Meets World was pinball based.
Episode 10.
Episode 10. And we get real deep into the world of pinball. So deep that when I see a pinball machine now, I have a greater appreciation for it. For example, I was just down in Detroit Lakes at Zorba's. They have the Elvira pinball
Nice.
machine. And I thought, I wonder if this is one of those rare ones that people don't see as much anymore.
And it is. And it
Is
is quite
it?
pricey. So if you can get it for a good price, you
Oh,
should do
okay.
it.
I'll make him an offer next time I go down there. And it also got me. I want to restore a pinball machine. Like that's my next goal, but I don't have the garage space right now for it because I get on these little tangents of things that I love that I half do and then don't finish. And so the fiance said I need to finish some of them before I move on to my next.
Oh, yeah. I think
Yeah, right? Exactly.
we're all in that boat, though. But I think it's just, you just find space.
Right.
It's like kids. You just find space. As a parent, I think that's the easiest way to put it. It's like, well, okay, here we are. Okay.
So the second round for Bill Brooks, we're going to talk about Tesla.
Yes.
And I mean, do we want to go as far back as talking about Nikolai Tesla himself, or are we going to go straight to the automobile?
Well, Nikolai Tesla is who the company was named after when they founded it 15 years ago, I think it was, out in California. So he was basically the naming inspiration behind it and all of his awesome inventions and wild ideas.
He was sort of like the Whole Foods of the inventor world. He's the one that everyone kind of has more respect for. And he's not the Alexander Graham Bell, right? He's not the one who's mass marketed.
Or was Thomas Edison,
Edison.
right?
Or
Yep.
Edison, yes.
Well,
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Same boat. They're all.
But
Yeah.
because didn't he work on trying to get electricity from the air? Was
yes,
his
and he
big
did
thing?
it. He did
Yeah.
it. He actually perfected it and basically the idea of wire. I mean, now we say wireless charging, but essentially he's the guy that came up with the idea of this ability to send electricity through the air. And so it was a wild notion at the time, because you can imagine everybody going, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I'm going to get electrocuted if I stand by this thing. And it's interesting how the Tesla Motor Company, now just known as Tesla, came and sort of went with that vibe of, this is totally different. People are going to be like, what is going on? And it's been amazing.
The first time I saw a Tesla charging station, I was on a bus trip to Minneapolis and the Clearwater Travel Plaza.
Clearwater Travel Plaza.
And seeing them all lined up, I felt like I was watching like a movie about the future. You could see it. You could be like, this is freshly poured concrete and the lines had just been striped. So this is going to be, in 50 years, this is going to be the norm, and people are going to be like, what's that old thing with a pump over there?
Smells. Why does it smell like that?
It's weird.
Yeah, it's like pumps versus hitching posts.
Yeah. Bill, why didn't you just say that? Why did you let me ramble and look like an idiot?
It's the future. The future, Marty.
Okay, so it's your kids. Something's got to be done about your kids. We're going to keep bringing it back. So Tesla designs an automobile unlike any other automobile before. And what's the premise behind it?
So the actual idea for Tesla, when it was invented, actually came from the EV1, which was actually done by GM. And they leased out all these electric cars to individuals who wanted to have them. And there's a great documentary of the EV1.
Is this the Who Killed the Electric Car?
Exactly, yes.
Love that doc.
Which is unbelievable. If anybody has an opportunity to watch it, watch it. So basically, GM had these amazing electric cars, took them all back, crushed them, and said, nope, we're not doing that. And that was the motivation behind essentially the Tesla Roadster, which was a full electric, basically sports car that was based on a Lotus. And actually, Lotus was partnered with Tesla initially. Lotus basically provided them with the bodies, and then Tesla just took and put the guts in. And away it went. So
an electric car. It sounds like something that is a no-brainer, except for I hear people say, well, I can never travel as far as I can travel on in my regular car. Or what if I have multiple different types of weather conditions? Or I'm going to have to retrofit my entire house to be able to have something so I can charge it at night. There are not going to be enough charging ports out there. It seems like there's always somebody who can poo-poo the idea of an electric car out there. And it's also, let's also throw this out there, it's a dirty word in certain areas that rely on producing things like oil and, gasoline. But it takes all of like 2 seconds to say like, no, you're wrong. And let me tell you why. So your experience as a Tesla owner, how's it been so far?
Amazing. I mean, literally, it's like if we could, jump in the DeLorean and go back in time, it would be essentially going from a horse to a car. And I honestly cannot say that enough. It is a complete paradigm shifting of automotive transportation. And all those things are things people say. And there's also an entire group out there of financial individuals and also the big auto industry. There's a lot of people that want to see Tesla fail for a variety of reasons. There's some in the financial industry that shorted Tesla, which basically means they would make money if Tesla stock went down, and it hasn't. And so now they're on the hook for a whole ton of money. So they're doing anything they can to be like, oh, that thing's terrible. It's absolutely awful, just because they're out a lot of money. You then have the major automakers too, who for a long time were like, okay, whatever, that's a cute little boutique thing. And as it's gaining traction, you're starting to see more electric cars coming from the major automakers. But it's interesting in that Tesla doesn't have like automotive dealerships. They are direct sale to the customer. So it's a totally different way of thinking about buying a car. And also the fact that they also have non-union workers too, which also brings in another group that basically doesn't like Tesla simply for that fact as well.
We could do a whole podcast on like the scam that is having to buy through a dealership now these days, in my opinion. And I'll inject that now. But one of the many things I love about Tesla is the direct to customer relationship that they have.
Except for pinball machines, because I'm a dealership for pinball machines.
Yes,
yes, I will.
Well, I just don't think, I don't know how profitable it is to have a direct to customer. I'm talking about cars specifically.
Yeah, it's so there's a lot of people who, but getting to the petrol, and the great thing is Tesla is such a bridging car too, because you say, oh yeah, well, it doesn't run on gas. Well, it runs on coal. So, and there's a whole heck of a lot of coal in North Dakota, and some of the Tesla people won't necessarily. It can also be kind of a dirty fact in some people's mind that it does run on coal. And the fact is, for example, if you're on Cass County Electric in Fargo, 50% of your power is coal, and it's North Dakota coal. So there's kind of something interesting to say that I'm running on a North Dakota commodity, whether it's coal, hydro, wind, or solar. And that's the great thing about an electric car is it gives you that energy, how do I put this? The ability to choose what kind of energy you want to have in the future. Maybe you want to put solar panels on your home, and that's what you particularly use for your power. It's diversifying the ability to get energy. And an electric car does that, where one that runs on gas, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of awesome gas-powered cars out there, but you're running on gas. You don't necessarily have that choice of what energy source you want to choose from.
Well, and I look at it as eventually electricity for us is we're looking at a renewable resource.
Yes.
We're looking at something that there's an abundance of until the day that the sun dies, which I imagine is going to be an alien attack. More on that in my next podcast.
I'm just going to call Bruce Willis for a cab and be like, let's go.
Let's do it. Let's go. But you're right. You're still relying on electricity, and electricity has to come from somewhere. Just because you buy a Tesla doesn't mean all of a sudden you've got a ton of solar power panels on your home, and or it's being charged by a solar panel anywhere you go. It's not like every dam has a Tesla charging station at it.
Not yet,
but soon. So here's a couple of questions right off the bat. Also, I want to comment on this. No Tesla dealerships also to me is a testament to the fact that the customer is going to Tesla. I haven't seen a Tesla ad.
No, they don't have ads.
They're going out there and they're buying, and you get waitlisted in some cases. Were you waitlisted? Were you able to get it right away?
I was able to get right away.
Good for you.
I lucked out.
What model do you have?
Model S.
Okay.
So the Model 3 is the one that has just come out, and that's the one that people literally, they lined up for. Some people waited days in line just to get their name to the top of the list, and they're now been rolling out, and they've been ramping up production. They've built an out facility in California, essentially a production tent. Is basically what it looks like. But they've been able to do a wonderful job of ramping up production to get these cars, and that's half the battle. Is as an owner, we're like, do you remember back in the day, like people were like Mac ambassadors, like Apple ambassadors is basically what it was, and you'd go out and basically say, hey, you should check this out, and that's kind of as owners, and especially for us in North Dakota here, where we don't have a Tesla charging station yet, an official supercharger. We do have chargers across the state, but it's our responsibility to share it with people to get a better appreciation of what electric cars can not only do for the environment, for the economy, for our nation, especially for people who want to talk about energy independence, and that's an important issue to some people. So that's what an electric car can do, and it's like the greatest bipartisan vehicle ever. It is, because we have the ability not to put out any emissions into the air from our vehicles. And in doing that, once you switch over, we have significantly less pollution if everyone would work towards an electric car. And there will be, because of the renewable energies of wind and solar, there will still be coal because we have a heck of a lot of it. But if we can focus on switching the millions of cars over and vehicles over to an electric, then that allows us to focus on a limited number of maybe power plants, that we can look at different opportunities for those people employed at those plants to look at, like natural gas power, which we also have a ton of in North Dakota. And then on the flip side, it's made in America and it runs on coal.
There you go. And I like the fact that you're not putting an exhaust out there, because during the winter when you see all those cars in a parking lot that they leave running and all of them are just sitting there, you would never allow someone to just sit and smoke and blow smoke in your face, but that's what we're doing with automobiles.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, you want to say
What?
you got something here?
You know how like in the winter when you're in your garage and you just like if you've ever just backed your vehicle out and then backed it back into the garage and you can smell it and you're like, that can't be good for me.
Right.
That's the great thing. I let my auto start in the garage because it's got built-in basically auto start. So I never have to worry about that. It's a wonderful thing never having to worry about emissions.
It's also true, right, that just by the benefit of just not even using a combustion engine at all, almost all of the repair that goes into a car is just gone because you're not doing a controlled explosion, you're not using liquids that affect materials, like that whole paradigm. There's a whole industry that's not car sales specifically that could also be affected by this. Is that right?
Yes. So effective in a sense that it's more of an evolution and they would need to, evolve and look at the different components, especially the electronic components. So, but yes, in the Tesla, it's like 15 total moving parts in the drive system. And when I go in for service once a year, I take it down to Minneapolis and I hit the Clearwater charger and get a donut the size of my face, which is the
I know, it's
greatest
so
thing
good.
ever.
That apple fritter bread, top notch.
I don't know what but anyways, we can.
You call that Tesla Day? You're like, I'm gonna go get the donut.
Give me some apple
Gonna
fritter
get
bread
an
and a
updated
donut.
car.
And then I sit and then you wait for, it's weird, and then you wait for other Teslas to show up and you're like, hey buddy, how you doing? Hello friend.
Hey guy.
Do you have a handshake? Is there a Tesla handshake?
You just do the T.
You just make it with your hand. T, like they call it the Zach Morris, maybe.
Yes. Whoa. Tesla time.
Okay, so I have a friend who's a mechanic, and he said that one of the things they had to do is when electric cars or even hybrid cars that have, this battery system started to become the norm, they had to outfit part of their garage to be able to service it. And one of the things that they had to service it for their insurance company is there is a yellow marking around the car, and you harness yourself up when you go to work on it so that if you were to start being electrocuted, your fellow employees could pull you and they can't be within that like yellow guideline.
Yes.
And he said you would think that people would be terrified of that, but if you've ever heard of the accidents or safety things you have to take when you slide underneath a regular car, he goes, this is easy. They can pull me away from that. This is essentially the same as if I had to fix a light bulb on a second-story building.
It's very similar. I mean, you think of it as like it's sort of you start blending electricians and mechanics essentially. So you've got, like in a regular gas car, there's a heck of a lot of things you can burn yourself on. I burned myself once on an exhaust that I was working on, and with an electric car, there's nothing underneath it. It's all the Tesla. It's completely flat. There's nothing there. But there is, like I said, there is that evolution. And those new skills that people will need to adopt as we do see more and more electric cars coming into the market, and that's not a bad thing because you need to constantly evolve and change, and everybody you need to learn new skills as you go along, and it's an opportunity also for people to set up electric car specific maintenance shops and different things like that. So there will always be a need for maintenance simply due to the fact that the cars roll on the ground and they're going to get dirty, things are going to happen, and they're going to need to get fixed regardless. It's basically I'm driving a phone basically right now.
Yes.
And so there are little, and with a phone there's little quirks and things that happen, and so that I have no doubt there will always be a need for people. And that is one of a concern that people have in those industries is, this is not good. This is it's like if you were in the telegraph industry, it's like, all right, well, it is going to change. But based on the fact that we have so many vehicles on the road in the U.S., if we all change to electric, there will be jobs available and there will be opportunities to start new ventures associated with
We're also
electric
thinking
vehicles.
of a world that's not just Teslas out there, right? Because
No,
part
Teslas.
of Musk's mission was merely to kickstart this industry.
Yes.
Like they've invited competition. They've released schematics of previous cars because they knew that like they were going to be pirated anyways and stuff. And it seems like they're successful. What other companies are now trying to compete in that space?
So it depends. So there's a variety of markets. So Tesla is geared towards the higher end luxury market, although on the used market they've come down substantially. But you also have like the Nissan Leaf, for example, which is an amazing vehicle from Nissan that is completely electric. BMW makes an i3, which is also a completely electric vehicle as well. Porsche is coming out with a Mission E, completely electric, basically supercar. There's a couple other boutique brands out there. The Fisker Karma is another completely electric supercar. There was one on Top Gear. I want to say it was a Croatian-made supercar, but excuse me, not Top Gear. Grand Tour.
Yeah, you got to be very specific nowadays, even though it's the same
There will be
show.
letters.
Yeah.
There will be letters. But there was one that actually the younger host on Grand Tour, and his name escapes me right now. It'll come to me at 4 a.m, and I'll wake up in the middle of my bed going, "Whoa, it was this guy." He crashed an electric car in one of the episodes. So there are a number of electric cars out there at varying degrees of affordability. For example, you can get a used Nissan Leaf completely electric for right around anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000 in that neck of the woods, all the way up to the Tesla supercar, which is 6 figures, and it's great if someone can go out and get that. But if not, that's okay too.
So let's talk about, you decide you want to become a Tesla owner.
Yes.
Okay. So you buy your Tesla. Did you go out to California to buy yours, or did they ship it here?
I had it shipped in. I actually was able to get mine used, thankfully, out of Georgia. So I had it directly shipped to me. And but you can go, and especially for the Model 3 owners, you go out and they have essentially delivery day where you go and you get your Tesla and it's there waiting for you. And they
just meet in the parking lot and everyone bring your keys.
I love the fact that I met my car in the Fleet Farm parking lot, which I thought was like ironically awesome. I'm like, yes, this is great.
Get some popcorn, some overalls, and a Tesla.
Some horse bridles and bridles. There we go. That's the word. It's but yes,
the last store to sell an actual hitching post. Bringing again full circle. Keep going.
But no, they have delivery day. You go to the you can have it shipped to you. I know people who have done that. But in general, a lot of, with the groups that I'm in online, everyone posts pictures from their delivery day where they meet their car, they get an introduction to the vehicle, they understand the ins and outs of it, and off they go.
So you get your Tesla. What do you have to do at your home? Because that's your primary charging spot.
So you have options. So, and this is where sometimes some of the cons, the charging can be, it's something to keep in mind, as I always like to say. At your home, you can plug into a standard wall jack, a 110, 120 outlet, and it will charge your vehicle. The length of time it'll take to charge your vehicle can be longer than if you use a dryer plug. Like I had a dryer plug, just had the electrician come out and put in a dryer plug in my garage, and then I can charge from nothing to full in 8-9 hours, depending on how much depending on how many miles I have left. But generally, if I roll into town on electrons instead of fumes, I can charge overnight. I just plug it in and I got a full tank. And that's the convenience factor is, I think, something that doesn't get talked about enough, is that every morning I start with a full tank. And as long as my commute is less than 200 miles a day, and I say 200, my range is generally 235, 240 on a completely full, but I like to, have
you don't
just
want to push it.
I don't want to push it, but every morning it's full, and then there's no need to stop at a gas station when it's 30 below or when it's 115 and you're melting, and it's convenience, and it's the time savings factor too. I mean, it seems like nowadays as a society we're moving towards convenience is such an important thing. I mean, you can get your groceries delivered. You don't have to leave the house, Lord knows, if you don't want to. All your movies are delivered to you. Blockbuster, there's only one left, I think, in Alaska, because it's
Oregon now, actually.
Oh, it's Oregon.
Yeah, the Alaska one closed.
I kind of feel bad.
Yeah, that's all right.
But it's the idea of the value of convenience, and that is what being able to charge at home brings you. So you can charge absolutely on a 110 regular outlet, or like I did, you can have a dryer. It's just a dryer plug, like a 240, installed in your garage, and you plug it in, and away you go.
How long did you say it takes to charge on a standard outlet?
So standard outlets, we would double it. So
Okay.
it would be
Like a day.
16. Yeah, it would be like 16 hours if I was completely empty.
Got it.
And then once we double the electricity up to 240, it's 8 hours. So I can plug it in
But-
overnight.
So then, let's say someone has a Tesla, but they actually just don't have a long commute, and they don't even end up using their full battery. If they're only using like a third of their battery in a day, then would they be able to then plug in that night in a standard outlet, and it would just top it off
Yeah,
overnight?
absolutely. They absolutely could overnight if they wanted to, or if with the standard outlet, you could absolutely top it off every night, depending on what your commute is. If you've got a 240, you could go a week or 2 weeks without having to plug in, depending on what your commute looks like. It is an outstanding, unbelievable vehicle, especially if your commute is less than 200 miles a day. You can road trip on it, especially if you love math. That's the greatest thing because you can calculate, you can figure out and do all that fun stuff. And that is where the future is coming. We're slowly but surely getting to that point because we talked about earlier the availability of charging stations, and they are around the corner. But we're just we did a Meet Tesla Day in Bismarck, and it was a little dicey getting in, but we made it out to Bismarck with about 20 miles left on the tank there. But you can go anywhere in a Tesla. It just depends on how fast you want to get there.
Sure. So, because take a trip to the cities from Fargo, right?
Yep.
So you're looking at just about 220 miles. It's going to be a little bit longer once you actually get into the cities, and maybe you're heading down to Bloomington, Mall of America, whatever you're doing.
Which has
So-
charging stations at the mall.
Do they really?
They do.
There you go. Okay. So, would you say I'm going to drive to Clearwater and then I'm going to have lunch or I'm going to have dinner in Clearwater and get a couple hours charge while I'm in Clearwater just to make sure that I've got a little extra boost when I get to the Twin Cities?
And that's what we plan on doing every time we go to the Twin Cities with the Tesla, is stopping in Clearwater because they have the supercharger there. And the supercharger is a super high wattage DC charger, if I remember off the top of my head, that can...
Tesla.
Yeah. So you can go... so, for example, if I wanted a full charge at home on my 240, it would be... roughly 8-9 hours, something like that. Supercharger, I can go from like 0 to completely full in basically an hour.
Whoa!
So, and it's included with the price of the car. So I don't pay anything to charge while I'm on the road at
What?
a Tesla supercharger. So,
Whoa. Dial it back. Don't just leave that there and then not pick it back up. So, when you go to a Tesla charging station, that's just included?
yes, with vehicles that were produced 2015, 2016. I think they continue in 2017, and I think they have the program available again now with referrals, is that supercharging for Model S's and Model X's are included with the vehicle for the life of the vehicle. And it transfers it goes with the vehicle, not with the owner.
Nice.
So, for example, we stop in Clearwater. Typically 30 minutes. We go in and grab a bite to eat, stretch the legs, use the restroom. We come back out, and then we've got, we're basically full at that point, or about 75% off to the cities we go. And then if we're going to the Mall of America, or we're going to a hotel or near a hotel, a charging station near a hotel, we just plug it in overnight if we need to at that point. And then we have, like I said, before we were spending $40 to $80 on gas to get to the Twin Cities, and now we spend, $20 on food at Clearwater. And
Nice.
That's about it. I'm not even including the food we were buying before.
Or, if you just love listening to JJ Meets World podcasts, you could listen to a podcast while you charge.
I hope that doesn't drain the battery faster.
No, well, I assume this is coming off of your phone.
Depends how
That's true.
electrifying the conversation is.
That's true.
Oh, yes. That was
Well
terrible.
played.
That's
Well
a dad
played.
joke right there for you. We're going to...
So, are there any hotel brands who have gotten behind Tesla and said, like, listen, every Hilton's going to have a supercharger at it?
We haven't had a point where every single there hasn't been a particular brand. We have had several brands, and it's kind of dependent on each individual hotel. In that there's a Hilton in Bloomington that has a Tesla destination charger. The Element by Westin here in Fargo has a destination charger for Tesla as well. And so I pick out hotels if we're traveling based on whether or not they have a charging station for us to use.
To me, is business 101, right? Like, if you can be the sole destination for a group of travelers, get ahead of the game, man.
Yes.
You know, you might as well be the one. At one point, there was one hotel who said, you know what, we're going to offer HBO for free in every single room. And people started going and finding the HBO rooms, and now it's universal across the board. So at these hotels that have a charging station, it must be shared between people who are bringing their Tesla? Do you sign up at the front desk? How does that run?
So you typically go to the front desk, and a lot of times there's more than one charger, which works out great. I think the Element here, I want to say there's 2 plugs, which for their volume of Tesla travelers is perfect. But you can check in with the front desk and just plug in and let them know that you're charging. Or in some cases, you may not even be staying at the hotel, and you may be traveling through, and then you go in and say, hey, do you mind if I top off for a little bit? And a lot of places are more than willing to accommodate you. In Fargo, for example, I know Happy Harry's on 52nd has a charging station that electric vehicles can plug in while you shop. West Acres, I know, has a few charging stations as well available for shoppers. They can plug in there and go in and shop. And Tesla has a program for destination chargers for businesses that want to attract those particular customers. I mean, at Fargo Pinball, we've been working with Tesla to get a destination charger at Fargo Pinball, so you can play some pinball. And
I gotta
plug
assume
in.
that like a Tesla themed pinball machine would just be totally in your wheelhouse.
I day one. I just be like, take my money now. Just take it.
It's just a picture of Elon Musk taking your money.
Yes.
That's all you see.
So I imagine, have you ever heard of HOG, the Harley Owners Group?
I have now.
So HOG is a group of people who own Harleys, and they get together and they'll have a Christmas party, and they've got newsletters, and they'll get together for things like, we're going to do a ride for, breast cancer or something like that. It sounds to me like Tesla is creating their own community. So you are talking with other Tesla owners.
Yes.
And, it's that thing where you end up, next to another one in traffic, and you both give each other a little nod of like, yeah, that's right. And you're informing each other about different things like, hey, you're in Fargo, stop at Fargo Pinball. They've got a charging station, and then you can go in and play pinball. It's a ton of fun. The same way other groups who own a similar product that they, I think Boeing does the same thing or Lear. Lear does the same thing for some of their jet owners, where they put out a magazine that's just for people who own a private jet.
Nice.
So, how is the Tesla community? Is it a ton of fun to be a part of that?
It's unbelievably supportive. I run the North Dakota Tesla Owners Group, and then there's another gentleman who helps run it with me out of Dickinson. I basically take the eastern half of the state, and he takes the western half, and we work together. For example, when we were talking about going to Bismarck, I actually parked at one of the members' houses who had an outdoor charger and plugged in and let it plug in overnight, and we went to the hotel. And it's unbelievably supportive in that, we've got people who will be like, hey, I'm coming through Fargo. Does anybody have anything available? There was a big wrestling tournament I don't want to say it was like last weekend. And there was a gentleman who was coming through North Dakota who was looking for a place to charge. And unfortunately, he couldn't charge at the Westin because it was booked and there wasn't availability. And so there were a number of us, a number of people in Fargo who were like, hey, why don't you stop by the house? I'll take care of you. And I know there were a bunch of offers that came out before I could even get, you're like typing. It's like, okay, he's got 4 offers of places to charge in town already. So it is unbelievably supportive because we know some of the challenges that face electric cars. And it's also fun to talk about the joy of having an electric car, and I know we're doing a lot of talking and people are like, oh yeah, that's great. You own a golf cart. We're proud of you. It's awesome. It is the coolest. It's paradigm shifting, which sounds, I don't know, that's a buzzy thing kind of say, but it's true. It truly is.
It's true, and it's the kind of topic too that if we had 5 days to talk, there are so many ways that the advent of electric cars and the Musk companies are crazily changing our future, because Teslas are not just electric vehicles. Many of them are self-driving. Many of them are just like they don't just take care of the gas for you. They also take you there, right? And
yes.
that is another massive paradigm change that is absolutely coming, and that it makes a lot of sense that, you know, we have seen the era of self-driving human driving gasoline cars will begin to diminish in our lifetimes as these other things start to take that place.
Absolutely. It's like the early adoption of airplanes, for example, because it was rare and there were hiccups. And, you know, I'm going to be totally honest with you. There are, you know, there have been some hiccups along the way, and they have been widely publicized in the media and stuff like that. But it is the idea that the computer will react faster than you can. And that is something that is going to increase the safety of vehicles, reduce the number of deaths on the road, you know, and bring about a brighter, safer future for people on the road by having these auto drive. And they were the ones that started it. Cadillac has it now. There's a whole list of companies that have the laser cruise control and all these other lane keeping features. And so yes, it is autopilot. It's like on an airplane. You know, when autopilot came along on the airplane, it helped make airplanes safer by knowing their proximity to other airplanes around them. And the future looks bright.
I was in Pittsburgh last year and visiting with a friend of mine I went to high school with, and he works in automatic cars, auto-driving cars now. And we were having dinner, and I said, so give me like a ballpark figure. Like, how long do you think it will take for computers to just completely be better than humans at driving? And he said, oh, it's probably about like 3-4 years ago. And I went, what? And he goes, yeah, like as far as just a human versus a computer driving, it's already better. Even though the computers aren't perfect, humans have never been perfect, and they are far, far better already. And that blew me away. Like, the future is actually here. We're not waiting to see if this technology can be proven. It is proven. We're waiting for it to take over the market, the economy, and our way of life.
So what does it take for you with our environment? Because I think of my cell phone, where I walk outside in the winter and the cold weather will take me from 80% down to 10% in about 10 seconds. Yeah. So is the battery affected by the weather at all?
Yes, it's absolutely true. And there's a lot of, you know, and I'm going to be totally honest, and there's a lot of people out there like, oh no, it's fine. You just got to drive differently. No, the cold absolutely affects. When we had that cold stretch here in Fargo, like it was negative 10 out, and we were driving, and I'm watching the mile markers go by and watching my battery gauge. And for a while there, I was losing 2 miles for every mile driven just because it was that cold. So it is absolutely true that the temperature does affect, especially the cold, because the batteries need to make sure they're at the optimal temperature to operate at. So the cold absolutely affects it. Now, you can park your car and leave it, and it basically takes care of the batteries. The nice thing is you'll never come out to a dead car with an electric car, provided you, of course, have enough charge at the beginning of your day where you can come out to a dead battery and have to jump your car. That won't happen because the car will take care of itself to make sure it never gets to that point. So, yes, the cold absolutely does affect it, but
I'll be honest, I was expecting a more dramatic change other than like you're losing 2 miles for every mile you're driving, because that still gives you a comfortable 100-mile commute during like a cold snap.
Yeah, and I'm being very conservative when it comes to, because each battery is different. So, and I'm being very conservative.
Results may vary.
Yes, results may vary. But in general, yes, that is, you know, if you have less than 200 miles a day, it's perfect. Or in the wintertime.
I've got about 6 miles to my office. So 12 miles. Stop at the grocery store, 15. So you're telling me that I'm not going to probably end up on the side of the road if we're on my 15-mile day?
You'd be just fine. And the bonus is, you ever been out at the gas station when it's 30 below and there's like a 60-mile-per-hour wind, and you're like, you got to be kidding me. Never again.
I even hate like when you're done fueling up your car and then you stop and you pull it out, there's always a little bit of gas that comes out. Okay. I have tried all these techniques. None of them work.
Honestly, this is a real reason I have thought about getting an electric car. Is twice in my life I have pulled the nozzle out and it's spilled gas on my hand, or the wind whips it around. And I hate gas. Yep. I hate the smell of gas, and you can't ever get it out of your hand. no matter how many old wives' tales there are about, like, you got to get some baking soda and dishwashing soap.
Those old wives lying to us for years.
But I love the idea of not having to get out there and stand and do that and just pull into the garage.
And, and to speak to to people who work in that industry or the owners of fueling stations, it's just a matter of changing over to pay charge stations instead of pumps. And it's essentially the same theory where, when you fill up with gas, you put your credit card in, you take it out and you go. You may not go inside to get a treat, but it's nice to have that option.
But there's a lot less urgency if something starts on fire.
Yes.
Far less urgency.
Yes.
Gone will be the days of where there's the beginning of a movie where somebody flicks a cigarette and it blows up an entire area.
Yeah, Zoolander would have made no sense if we had electric cars then.
Terrible gas fight.
Our children's children will be watching the beginning of Lethal Weapon 4 and going, I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah.
What's going on?
What kind of a Mad Max movie would it be if everything was electric?
It would be very silent. It'd be just the speakers would be it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So what are other? So what's the size of the biggest Tesla?
That would be the 100 kilowatt battery, the 100. Mine's an 85. They make I think currently it's the 70, the 90, and the 100. So the 100 will do over 300 miles.
Tesla
range.
Magnum.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that's the big boy.
Yeah.
That's the one you're making. That's the YouTube video one where you're like, all right, strap in. We're going for a ride.
So what is okay? So do you get a bigger battery because you're getting a bigger vehicle, or are you getting a bigger battery for convenience?
A bigger battery gives you more range, but you can also go quicker.
Okay.
So, which is also when we did Meet Tesla Day in Fargo, we had a lot of individuals who came out who were big motorheads and loved cars, but loved the big motors. When you experience the torque that an electric car gives you, it is absolutely mind-numbingly awesome. I was saying I was a little late to the studio here, and I hit every red light, which normally I'd be, I was trying to get here quickly, but normally I hit a red light. I'm like, yeah, all right. Here we go.
Excited to start driving again.
Yes. So the bigger battery will give you a greater range. It'll also give you better acceleration. Think of it as a balloon. This is always the analogy they say. And when you blow air into a balloon and when you release it, it comes out. So bigger balloon, more air is going to come out faster.
I like that. I'm a fan of a show called Silicon Valley. And this last season, one of the characters purchased a Tesla, and it became part of the series of episodes. There's one where he wanted the best Tesla, and then his friend bought the model greater than his. And about who's, there are parking garages where there are primo spaces reserved just for Teslas. They've done deals with groups like who own parking structures and things like that, where they said, listen, help us brand this as something that is an ultimate luxury for people. It's not just getting them from point A to point B, but they are also going to get primo parking as a part of this. And then people are going to see that the individuals who are shopping in your mall getting to park their Teslas up front, those are the folks who are willing to spend more for a quality product. You're building this whole world of a new consumer that places like malls are excited about. No wonder the Mall of America has got Tesla charging stations.
Has charge. Yes.
Right? They see the opportunities to
Fargo
say
Pinball? I don't think Fargo Pinball has a charging station.
No, I've been asking Tesla. I'm like, hey, what do we got to do to put a destination charger here?
Hell yeah.
So it's coming. But yes.
So when you how big is the biggest Tesla as far as like size wise of the actual automobile?
So the biggest one would be, there's two models. There's the Model X and the Model S, and they're both built on the same platform. The Model X is the SUV version, which allows you a little more headroom, bigger body. But it'll carry you can go, let me see, 2, 3. You can go 7 passengers in that one.
Wow.
Mine is the Model S, which is the sedan that can go 7 passengers as well, because you can buy these little jump seats. Do you remember, do you ever ride in a station wagon growing up where you're facing backwards?
Backwards?
They sell seats like that for
Nuh-uh,
the
for
Tesla
real?
Model S. Yes, absolutely. And they had some weird situations in I think it was in California where a woman was putting 2 children in the trunk, and the cops got called because they thought she was abducting these children in the Tesla by putting them in the trunk, when in fact she was putting them in the jump seats in the way back. So that would be 7 passengers. I would say comfortably for regular size adults, conservatively 5.
Yeah.
So 4 to 5, depending on it. It is, the bigger you go, of course, you need to have more power. So it's kind of a sweet spot of size, in my opinion. But the amount of cargo space is unbelievable. I hauled 100. I did all the trim work in my home myself, and I hauled 140 feet of trim in my Tesla, which is great when you're in the Menards lot and you're loading up a Tesla full of lumber. Like, it's multifaceted, does everything. So.
Get ready for a podcast with Bill Brooks #3 called Trimming It.
Trimming it with Tesla.
Trimming it. So what about things, I'm thinking of the North Dakota consumer, right?
Yes.
I'm thinking about how you convince somebody who's used to their giant excursion-sized SUV that they never use. They've never sat in that third seat. They've never hauled trim. They just want a big car. And they think it's better for them because of ice and snow and things like that. What do you say? What would you say is a pitch to somebody who says, "Well, I need a car where I can haul things around. I need to be able to haul people around. I need a vehicle that is just enormous." Or let me even add this.
Take the bus.
That
I
can
think that's pretty
tow
big
as well. Do Teslas tow?
Yes. So you can absolutely, if you're not going to be able to tow a giant boat, I'm going to be just based on the amount of towing capacity, but you can absolutely tow small campers. You could tow jet skis, smaller fishing boats, absolutely like that. But I guess the pitch would be, I would put my car up against any other vehicle in the winter. Based on the fact that the center of gravity of a Tesla is the dead center of the vehicle, giving it amazing handling in the wintertime. And mine's 4-wheel drive, and I put a set of snow tires on it, and I have never driven anything better in the winter, hands down. So the other idea is because of the way it's designed with so much crumple zones, there isn't a safer vehicle as far as regular accidents are concerned. Your standard lower speed incidents, for example. So I would take it any day of the week over one of those, just based on the fact of how it handles in the snow in the winter. It's going to be safer. It's going to be able to handle better. And the fact that it has so many safety features built in that in some cases it just will avoid the accident completely and be like, nope, I'm not going to crash today. I see that car is stopping, 50 yards in front of you, and I'm seeing it before you are, and so I'm going to make sure I stop in time. So, and the fact is, if you want to drive your big SUV, know that I'm running on a North Dakota commodity, and you're not.
Oh, snap!
So,
boom.
And you can say what you want about. Some people can say what they want about coal, but that is a big industry in our state. And I'm not only supporting them, but I'm also supporting all the wonderful wind farms that you see around and the solar farms that are coming as well. So you want to bring in, wherever your particular fuel comes from, which in the U.S., we've reduced our dependency on foreign oil a lot, but it's still there.
Still sizable, still decisive.
It's still there, and it is something that it is an issue.
The price goes up on that, and we're affected by it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, and you. So it's if you can say that you need that particular size of vehicle, and that's your prerogative. I'm going to tell you the advantages of the electric car, but if that's the way you want to go, you're going to go that way, and I'll wave at you when it's 30 below at the gas station and wish you the best of luck.
I have a question about the fueling of it.
Yes.
The market side of it. So, if you're a gas company, you've got to get access to fossil fuels. You got to dig them up. You got to transport them. You got to process them. Blah 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Right. So there's a definite cost to getting that particular product, that fuel, into your car, and therefore there's this commodity called fuel, and market forces can change the price of it. How susceptible to say a market fluctuation would it be on refueling your Tesla, since we're talking about electrons?
Well, I think it's a matter of looking at I've never heard of anybody complaining about the swings in the amount it costs to power my home. Like, oh my gosh, the power rates are through the roof today. It must be traveling season. So I guess, coal, it must be an all-time high today. And you hear that with fuel. And so there isn't, I'm not aware of the market fluctuations that you do see with gasoline, for example, because you hear it all the time. It's like prices at the pump are through the roof. And it's
definitely not I think that there is a slight change, but it's not a volatile market.
No.
Also, if you're a business owner, like if you own a gas station, let's say you buy and gas is $4.20 a gallon. That's what it costs you. So you're going to charge the person who's filling up $4.50 to make your nut on it. And you fill up this giant tank you have underneath your business that holds it, and then all of a sudden we release a bunch of oil, and all of a sudden now the going rate at the guy down the street is $3.25. Now you're selling your gas at a loss, which is something I didn't realize that until I spoke with someone who owned a gas station. He goes, "Oh yeah, it is definitely a game of numbers," and sometimes I buy gas at $3.15 and the guy down the street selling it at $4. And so I'll sell it at $4 as well. And you hope that over time it kind of evens itself out. But when you're charging with electricity, you're only paying for what you're actually consuming.
Correct.
So you're only bringing it at that time. You don't have a giant tank full of electricity beneath your store. So I would imagine as an owner of a convenience store, that sounds like a very, very nice thing to invest in.
I would love to see Casey's, for example, put in some pay charge stations because I love their pizza, for one.
Yes.
And the ability to stop and, we're all used to paying for what we use. So it's not shifting anything. It's simply I pull up to Casey's charging station and I pay to charge and I go get a slice of pizza and I have a great day. And that's essentially what I hope the future is coming to. So we not only we maintain those jobs, we just shift it over into the electric market. But you hear about did you hear about Delta the other day? They were complaining because of the gas prices on airline tickets, and it's like, come on, because they speculated they were going to be at X and they were actually at Y, and so now the price gets sent down to the consumer. So
right, and that's the thing that drives me nuts with the oil industry is it's the consumer who's ultimately going to pay the price on it, not because you happen to get into a company or a market that is constantly changing. And
it's interesting to think too, extrapolating into the future. I don't think there's any question that the ultimate goal, at least of our civilization, the ultimate goal is to power everything from the sun. Because we are bathed in free solar energy every day. No one on Earth can copyright the sun. No one can control its, unless that's a brilliant idea you'd like to do.
Mr. Burns.
Mr. Burns, yeah. We don't have any Mr. Burns around here. And so even if we're switching from, say, fuel, gas to coal, even the necessity for that commodity goes away over time, extrapolating into the future. And we're not, it's hard to imagine a sort of one-to-one job conversion rate from all those jobs. And so we're not necessarily talking about replacing industries. I mean, we're talking about industries that basically will vanish at some point or become so niche for certain, car collectors who collect old cars that still run on gas or things like that. But I mean, what if you had to put on your wizard cap and think about the future, what do you see, say, 20 years down the road? What do you think we're going to be at?
I think we'll be at 20 years, because change scares people. And that's just the way it is. So, and especially when something that is familiar to people as driving their vehicles, especially in the U.S., because we love our cars, we love to drive them. I think in 20 years, by that point, we will see the commercial side of the electric charging come along, where at Casey's there may be 10 charging stations and there may still be 2 petroleum stations. That is what I hope for as we get along those lines. And I do hope, and I see that the energy sector, so our in-ground commodities, those jobs will slowly, and those industries will, I hate to see things disappear, but I like to see evolution, for example.
Sure.
In that it's not that it's disappearing, but it evolves into another entity in an industry that people have opportunities to take part. Because I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of people who will need to go back and get electrical engineering degrees, and especially electrical mechanical degrees.
You're just talking about one industry might wane while another is built from the ground up, and it's a brand new industry that needs to take place. The more people you're talking about training, like you said, training electricians who are also mechanics, and mechanics who are also electricians, and talking about just even this. So electric vehicles might make it easier to improve public transit, and so a place like Fargo might say, gosh, we can add 15 more buses. And so people who may have been laid off from one industry can now come and be the bus driver, or can be the individual that sits in there in the autonomous bus and greets people as they come in. Welcome to Map Bus.
Yes.
Nice to see you.
Yes, and even the individuals who have to work on the electrical components of that particular bus. It's awesome, and it's around the corner. We're getting there now, and if we can just encourage people to consider it, and I think there's a lot of people who won't even listen to it. And let's be honest, we have an abundance of petroleum in our state, and we've been very blessed with having that. And petroleum is in everything, so it's not like changing to an electric car is going to kill the oil and petroleum industry. There's petroleum in cosmetics. I'm looking at these foam. If there's petroleum in foam, there's petroleum in plastics and everything. So when you hear people concerned about that the electric car is going to kill the petroleum industry, it is not. It is going to continue. There's a ton of petroleum that's in my electric car in the different sort of plastics and things that are used there. So
if this podcast were being made 100 years ago, they'd be saying electricity is going to kill the whale blubber industry.
And we'll kill it.
And
they had electric cars 100 years ago.
Did they really?
They did. It was there was a few of them. I was just in Auburn, Indiana, at the Duesenberg Cord Museum they have there, and they had an electric car there from 100 years ago. It was an electric buggy is essentially what it was.
Cool.
So we've come kind of full circle back to that idea, and as technology has caught up, the technology has caught up to the point where we can, I can drive from here to Minneapolis, stop over in Clearwater, get a giant donut, and do it all in an electric car.
I think that, so let's say the state of North Dakota wants to get tourism going in North Dakota. And they say, gosh, what are we going to do other than advertise in the back of a Sky Mall that doesn't exist anymore?
If you can afford to get the Sky Mall because the gas prices killed your travel budget.
I think that if our state tourism department said, listen, we're going to come up with some grant money to businesses that want to put in charging stations, I think that would be a boon for towns.
Brilliant.
You take those towns on Route 66 that are dying away because they're not the interstate anymore. I was just in Springfield, Illinois, that is on Route 66, and some of those businesses are really struggling. Unless you have the history of being the place where the corn dog is invented, it's hard to stay afloat. Well, why not the Route 66, it could be the electric Route 66, and you could start putting all these charging stations in. And so all of a sudden, the appeal of the interstate is kind of taken away to a new type of commuter, a new type of traveler who wants to have the ability, because it's great when you get to Fargo and you've got, a hotel that's got a charging station, you've got the mall that's got a charging station, but wouldn't it be great if you had more than a handful of options?
Yes.
Where you said, gosh, I can stop in this town. There's 9 places to eat that all have charging stations. There's a couple of these. What do you even call them anymore? Now they're not gas stations. Do you just call them filling stations? Because you're filling up with electricity.
Charging stations.
Charging station. Oh, I like that a lot. And you can just whole new T-shirts. It's like, do you remember gas?
Electric
food?
Avenue.
Oh,
Eddie Grant. He's coming back.
Man. Yeah. Oh, I tell you, his estate is probably like, we're going to get so much money out of that.
Yes.
Electric Avenue song is going to be big. But I see there as an industry ready to go and ready to embrace it. And speaking of embracing it, we teased people that we had something special. So not only is Bill Brooks the first guest to make a second appearance, but we're taking this show on the road, and we're going to hop in your Tesla, and we're going to record the podcast from inside the Tesla while we're moving. I'm very excited, Bill. Thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
JJ Meets World.
it is nice and cool in here.
I'm gonna put the seat all the way back because that's
No,
the
go
kind of
for
guy
it.
I am.
I hear you there. I'll make sure the audio is off so we don't have to
It's a very
pay if it goes longer than 30 seconds.
very slick interior. Definitely classy. Much classier than my 98 Ford
Swedish
Focus.
House Mafia is the music that it's trying to play.
The music of choice. We
Okay,
will. We'll
so
pause
the first
that.
thing I notice is a gigantic touchscreen in front of me that is gorgeous. Also, the mix of like the old school wood. This is a pretty car.
It's
like
a
it's
very pretty
nice
car.
inside.
How customizable was it when you bought it?
I got it on the used market, so I got it as it was. But you can customize the interior color. You can customize whether you want wood or piano black. The headliner can be a different color.
Is this like a felt up here on top?
It's a velour. No,
Yeah, a velour.
it's
No, it is not a felt.
It's just like
What is this, a Ford
it's
Pinto?
Like a faux suede. So yeah, and I didn't do the sunroof option. My wife's had a history of skin cancer, so we try to avoid the sunroof if we can, which is I love it. And the back seat, for if you're a taller individual, the back seat can get a little tight. In the front seat, it's absolutely plenty of headroom.
Yeah,
and the leg room is. I mean, I'm not even all the way back, but you've
I'm
got
6'3" and I feel fine. Curious what the horn sounds like?
sure.
Sounds like a horn.
Sounds like a horn. I was expecting more of a robot-y thing. Okay,
So you're in drive right now.
Okay,
so push
so
it
how do
all
I-
the way up, all the way up, one
all the
more,
way up.
and go up
All
with
the way
it.
up. Oh, there we go.
And so you have your backup camera.
Mm-hmm.
I leave my camera on all the time, so I can always see what's going on behind me, which is a fun thing to have. So,
You guys ready?
Let's do it.
Like more Tucker, are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
so one fact, I don't have idle.
Oh, okay.
It's so crazy
It's
that this
weird.
car is already moving.
Yeah.
I didn't hear an engine start up. I didn't hear any
No,
of
and if
that.
I turn the AC off, you hear sounds that you normally wouldn't hear, and that's just the wheels engaging and turning, and so we're
Oh,
on.
okay. Is that because it's masked by the...
Oh, you are right about that torque.
I am. It's
Oh, man.
Are those sounds usually masked by the engine in a regular car?
Yep, absolutely. And or Swedish House Mafia, depending on how loud you have it playing, like I do.
It's the fastest you've ever gotten this thing up to.
Within the speed limit.
Sure, yeah. But let's say you got this out on a test track somewhere.
So this, if I was out on a test track, it would top out at 155. The numbers turn red to tell you got to slow down.
You're done.
Yeah, you've left your cell phone on the dash, and you're in Phoenix in the summer. Slow down.
JJ, does it feel like you're driving in the future right now?
It does. It
So we're at a stoplight right
reminds
now,
me
and
of a
it feels
golf
like
cart.
it sounds like the car is off right now.
Yes,
Because we're at a stoplight. We're not moving.
It's dead. I just turned the air conditioner on, but other than that, it's dead quiet. And honestly, I don't always like to use the golf cart analogy, but yeah, it's an electric golf cart. Remember when you go from like a gas golf cart? If you've ever played golf and you've been to a course that had electric carts versus gas carts, and you ended up with an electric cart, you're like, whoa, this is silent. This is amazing.
One thing I notice is the extra kind of, what do you say this? Like the momentum that you get in a gas vehicle because it's still kind of producing a little bit. I'm not really, I'm not feeling with this, and I'm not feeling that chug that kind of
No.
comes along with it.
And there's no gear lag because
Yeah.
it's got basically two gears, forward and back, and that is it. But when you'll notice too, and I will ignore my brother. He's going to hear this and be mad at me, but that's okay. Jim will call you later.
That was a phone call coming through the dash.
Yes.
I instantly thought, what did I do wrong while I was driving this
That was
automobile?
that was the police,
Activate
police
transformation
officer.
mode.
Alert. He's over there.
Cop.
Be good. No, I was. I completely went off the train there. But anyways, yeah, it's completely quiet. You'll notice the regenerative braking. That's what I was getting at. Is that when I leave mine on standard, you can also set it to low. But it's like if you take your foot off the pedal right now, and go, you'll feel how dramatic it really slows down to try to recapture as much energy as it can through our forward inertia. So it's trying to take that energy and store it to have it available.
It must be great for like commuters, like who are doing that start stop. you wouldn't, you're creating all of that extra energy out of it.
And from a maintenance standpoint, you save on your brake pads because you generally don't have to touch them.
Also, let's talk about the backward camera here. I am amazed at the quality that you have out of this thing.
It's awesome. I mean, it is.
It looks like a 1920 1080 image.
It is.
And it's crystal clear.
It's high def. It's clear.
And right below it, you've got Google Maps or something.
Yeah. So this is Google Maps, and so I have my satellite up right now, and the navigation is unbelievable.
I'm so jealous.
And I can blow up the navigation if we want to make it really big.
Whoa! So he just tapped the bottom left corner, and now the whole screen. And we're talking. This screen looks like a 15-inch computer monitor screen almost.
Yes.
So it's a big screen, and wow, that's awesome.
Does your Tesla ever say like, "Hey, Bill, you do not need that McDonald's"?
I wish it did, because that would. I mean, that's a whole nother health and safety pitch we could make right there.
And this will be something that people need to get used to. So I'm looking at your screen here, and it's showing kilowatt hours, and that is something that people are going to just have to get used to in their vehicles, is seeing something like that and learning how to read that. When you purchased this, what was the odometer at?
There's 19,000 miles, I believe it was.
So you're a little over 12,000 miles that you've put on this thing?
Yep.
And you said you do one yearly maintenance session, and you take it down to the Twin Cities?
Down to the Twin Cities, they check it out, alignment, just to double check. It's essentially double checking everything, making sure, windshield washer fluids are good, and it's a general checkup is basically what it is.
Does it tell you anything? I mean, if there's something wrong with it, is it going to indicate, Johnny 5 alive? Is it going to tell you that it needs more of this, or?
It'll say call Nova, and we'll see how it's
Bill, you are very good at turning me on. A lot of Mr. Burns references happening.
Yeah, I like it.
Wayland, that was the Malibu Barbie episode when she went over to
Stacy.
Oh, God. Yep, thank you. I messed that one up.
I can't do it today. I'm far too drunk. No, you're not. Never mind.
So, yes, if there is an issue, it will alert us to that fact and say contact service center. And here's the other wonderful thing that I have grown to love is that I've had a couple little quirks, which cars will do. So with the door handle, I had a couple door handles that just didn't want to come out for whatever reason. They just were having a bad day. Tesla has what are called Rangers, whereby they came to my house and fixed it in my garage. And then,
wow.
And it was, it's a warranty thing, so it didn't cost me a dime for them to come out and take care of it. It's like, remember, like back in the day, if you had a cracked windshield, you'd have to take it somewhere.
Yep, and now they come to your house.
Come to you. So now, and that's what Tesla has with the Ranger program for small things. And in general, a lot of people, when they go in for service, it's majority of small things, for example. And they'll come to me. They'll come to my house, so I never have to go. So I don't have to drive to Minneapolis to have it worked necessarily. They'll come fix it where I am.
So right now we're driving south on University in Fargo, and we're actually driving behind a Honda hybrid car.
Yeah, and I'm like,
I wonder if that person
Junior
looks back and goes, "Oh,
you can't do that. You got to give them the thumbs up. Like, right on, buddy.
Almost there, bud. Halfway there,
You
buddy.
got it. You're getting there. The future is now." So
what are the lights in this? Are these LED lights?
Mine are still the old Xeon.
Yeah.
They now have gone to the LED lights, which are fantastic as well. And again, this is a 2015. So this is a 3-year-old car. And what's amazing is the technology in this 3-year-old car, I would say, rivals what you can get in a modern day, brand new, non-Tesla vehicle.
Does Tesla run their vehicles the same way the auto industry does, where it's 2018 right now, but I can buy the 2019, Chevy whatever, or is the 2015? This is the 2015 model that came out in 2015.
So it's a fun question because this is essentially I always use the phone analogy. I feel like I'm driving a phone, and you know how when you buy a phone. For a number of years, they'll keep sending out updates to update your phone. They do that with the car. So I've had numerous updates that have come out to me since this car was built to upgrade the car, to give me new features and new options. It just came out with a speed limiter mode, so that, which I call maybe the teenager mode, so that I could set a speed limit to say you cannot go this high, and I could dial down the acceleration for, maybe a teenager who wants to floor it.
Sure.
I can set it so it won't do that. And that was part of an over-the-air update for the software. So there are, of course, new... one of the things that this has Autopilot 1, the newer vehicles have Autopilot 2, which are with more cameras and allow you the idea of going towards the completely autonomous driving. So there are some things, but in general, the ability to have that over-the-air update gives you all kinds of new features without necessarily having to go out and buy a new car.
Is this baby low jacked?
I can track it on my phone, which is part of the
Nice.
Tesla app, which... like my wife is, when she takes it out, and I said, I wonder where she's at right now. I'm like, you pick me up some McDonald's. I noticed you're 2 blocks away.
Bill, the Tesla just told me you've had enough McDonald's.
Oh, dang it! But it's actually here. If you want to give it a little gusto.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna.
Of course, we have a bunch of stop signs in front of us. So.
Well, I brought. This is my neighborhood, so like I know.
they know
what,
me here.
I know what I know what I can
all
test.
the cops in this neighborhood.
So we're gonna take a left down 9th Street over here and really give it the old college try.
And you really notice it, especially from a dead stop. That's where the torque is unbelievable. So like if
Puppy
you,
dog.
and nobody's going to hear us either, so it's
Right.
not like we're going to be making a lot of noise. They'll
They're just gonna be like, whoosh.
what was that?
Oh!
Oh wow, that's fantastic.
And
I
it's
feel like
silent.
I'm going into like hyperspace.
Yes.
That should be the next thing they add to their app.
Well, they have in the upgraded, in the performance versions, like the P100D, the P90D, you could add the option of ludicrous mode.
Yeah. So when would you engage ludicrous mode?
So it's a setting that you would specifically turn on. Mine doesn't have that. It's the higher end ones. It's the ones where you're spending the big money, and it's awesome. So it would be if you're stopped, you'd turn it on, and then it would give you ludicrous mode, and you could just make your own YouTube videos and show everybody how awesome it is and stuff like that. But no, seriously, at this stop sign, we're not going to speed, but come to a complete stop, and then we'll get in a straight line, and then just punch it.
What is it? Ludicrous speed? Is that what they have in Spaceballs?
It's from that's where they got it from.
Is that where they got it from? Okay, so we're gonna go from 0 to everything. Ready, you guys?
Yep.
A complete stop.
All right.
Keep going. Stop. Perfect. Hit it hard.
Whoa! Oh my god!
Have you gotten this thing out onto a test track? Like, have you brought this anywhere where you're like, listen, guys, we just wanna try it out?
So, and that's a wonderful plug too we can make. So there is the drag strip in Moorhead recently changed ownership.
Yeah.
And I've been talking with them about, they have the open days where you can bring your car to the track to, punch it and see how well you can do. And I've been in talks with them about, getting, part of it is you have to have a helmet, and so setting up rental helmets and stuff like that. But see, that is, I remember the first time I did that, I'm like, yes. So
I gotta
I'll
get
take
one of these.
Yeah, that is the reaction, because you go from, we talk about all this electric golf cart, we talk about all that stuff, and then you punch it, and you're like, you got to be kidding me. This is unbelievable.
It reminds me of, have you ever been down to Disney World and been on the rock and roller coaster, the Aerosmith rock and roller coaster that goes from like 0 to 60 almost instantaneously?
Yes.
That's the same feeling I got from this, only I didn't hear Steven Tyler be like, "Wee-ah!"
We could do that, though. You can hear just, we won't, but yeah, you just push the button there and say play, I don't even know what song they play when
I think there's a mixture of it. In fact, is it the rock and roller coaster where you get to pick the tune you hear in your specific...
Yeah, you could be like,
that the one?
It'd be like, play Love in an Elevator by Aerosmith.
It's attempting to do it. Oh, you have to turn it up.
I think we can allow 10 seconds of a song.
Yeah.
I think it's 30 seconds, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
Here we go. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, Tesla baby.
So yeah, so if you want to, you can, and that's the wonderful thing too is they have streaming included.
What? For real?
For real. Yep.
So does this thing generate its own Wi-Fi signal?
No, that's one thing. I don't believe it does. That's, everybody's got their phones. It does connect wirelessly to your home network, and it runs your LTE through your phone, basically. But it also has the built-in. Excuse me. Let me backtrack. It has built-in LTE itself, so
Okay.
it can do the over-the-air updates and stuff like that. But you connect your phone to it for your phone and your contacts and all that stuff, and then you can. I can check my calendar and all that stuff. And then do you want to? I got something kind of fun. That's kind of.
Oh, I hit the cruise button.
Oh, you got to try the cruise, the auto drive.
Yeah.
I'll show you that. But
Let's take this thing. Do you mind if we take this thing into Moorhead?
no, go right
Let's head
ahead.
out to Highway 10.
Absolutely, no, go for it. Oh, I'm hitting my water bottle here. Let me.
According to this, we've got
204 left on the tank.
Oh,
We're
look
good
at
to go.
that.
So
Oh, that's neat. It even so for you folks at home or in your vehicle that doesn't have this, it has got a battery icon the same way your phone would to show you where you're at, and then your actual mileage next to it, which is awesome. It's great because that is an icon that we are now completely used to and completely used to trusting. And does it give you warnings when you get down to a certain level?
yes, it'll warn you geographically based when you get, especially with the navigation system. So if I plug in to go to Bismarck, for example, from Fargo, there's a point along the way it will say, and it may have been updated by now, but last year when we did, a warning came up and said, you're at the point of there are no known charging stations along your route. If you need to charge, go here now. But yeah, when it gets lower, especially with the navigation, it'll say reduce to 70 to reach your destination, reduce to 60 to reach your destination, depending on where you're going.
And so it'll take in some environmental factors too, like if you're driving against the wind,
yes,
maybe?
it's constantly, with the navigation, it's constantly calculating your consumption. So here's a wonderful graph that allows us to get, if we were driving at this particular style of driving.
Basically, the screen is split in two. We've got the rear camera on the top, and then on the bottom half, he's actually got a graph that's showing like a plot over time, which is awesome.
So you can basically understand your projected range, and that range is, of course, dependent on your driving style. So if we're hitting every red light and flooring it, which is great, it'll reflect that.
How difficult, once you decided you wanted a Tesla, how long did you have to wait? Like when you were searching for, since you bought this one previously owned?
Yeah, honestly, I got on, I just got online and found the one that was at the price that worked for me and was the color and had the options I wanted. So if you're ordering a new one, it's a couple weeks. If you're looking for one on the used market, they're absolutely out there at various dealerships across the U.S. You can ship a car for generally $1,000. So it's like I said, mine came out of a dealership in Georgia, and, as I mentioned, and I had it shipped up. So, and let me show you something. One of the things my kids like. So let me go and do this. Let's do the radio, just for now. Just put on the radio. So go ahead and hit the speech button.
Okay.
And say, ho ho ho.
Ho, ho, ho. Did you press it again?
Yeah, try it one more time. I didn't
Okay.
catch you there. Probably heard me. Let me go ahead and do it one more time. There we go. Yep.
Now push it?
Yep.
Ho, ho, ho.
Yes.
Tucker, can you see what it did up here? It
Yeah.
changed it to Santa
Yeah,
Claus.
so now there's a second screen that's right in front of the driver.
And so you'll notice the other cars in the radar now show up as reindeer.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's got animated snow. We are now Santa Claus. That's fantastic.
That is a hoot.
It's the commitment to, I mean, they built an amazingly serious electric car, but there are so many little bits of humor in the car that just make you smile. And just hit the turn signal for a second.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome stuff. It's like when someone tells you, oh, you gotta ask Siri, you gotta say this one lyric from a Bohemian Rhapsody, and then it'll sing the rest of it back to you. So when you hop into did you know immediately when you got into this thing, like, yep, this is the right choice? Like, have you had any regrets?
None. I'm not going back. I will never. I can't go back now. It's weird to say that, and people are like, oh yeah, whatever. This guy in his electric car, he's drinking the Kool-Aid. But honestly, it is you feel the torque, the convenience factor. It's unbelievable. I can't go back.
Is there an estimation for like the lifespan of this vehicle?
So let me get a perfect example. They just had an article. They just had a Tesla. I want to say it was like a 2016, 2017, of a car rental company in Los Angeles that put 400,000 miles on the car, and it's still running great. So I believe on most everything it has the standard, I believe it's 4-year, 50,000 mile warranty, or 4-year, 40,000. I'll have to double check that. But it's unlimited miles on the battery. So as far as you want to go, miles wise, the battery will do that. So
Is that part of their yearly tests? Is they maybe check the load capacity on the battery?
They check it out, and there is battery degradation. That is a thing, but it's I have not noticed it with my particular use, and it's so minor that, like I said, if your daily commute's less than 200 miles, you'll never have to worry about that. It's absolutely perfect.
As far as the build of the battery itself, like, is it functionally different than a car battery, or is it a lot of the same materials inside the battery itself?
So it's made up of a ton of lithium-ion cells that look like AA batteries. So it's a bunch of AA battery-looking lithium-ion cells literally along the bottom of the vehicle right now. And you can notice there's no hump because there is no drivetrain.
Yeah.
So, or drive shaft, excuse me.
The one interesting thing is I'm looking at the little display it puts in front of me. It is incredibly intuitive as far as it's mapping out other vehicles that are in front of me. And it also is indicating the speed limit of the area that I'm in.
It picks up the speed limits from the signs, and actually the camera
Is that
captures
really?
that, sees it, and then displays it for you there.
Oh, now that is a little piece of genius right there.
It's the little things that just, like it has auto garage door opener. So whenever I pull home, it automatically opens my garage door for me. It is absolutely amazing. And it has all these little cutesy, I'm hitting the logo here, and then there's these I don't want to change the name. It's got secret little menus and stuff. I don't know if I can hit the right button. Oh, come on now. We just did it.
It's so weird to be in a car that there's no real idle sound. Like when we stop, it feels like we're in a dead car.
Yes.
I'm used to the vibrations of an engine, and there's nothing. This is really nerdy, but
I'm good to go.
So
Sit tight.
I'm thinking of the episode of Next Generation where they find Scotty was trapped in a transporter beam the whole time, and he comes on the new Enterprise, and he's surprised that he can't feel the ship move because technology has changed so much.
Yes. I remember that one. That one was
Awesome episode.
It was the star that went nova on the
Dyson
inside.
Sphere. They find the Dyson Sphere.
Ah, that's it.
You know, one of my
I'm
favorite.
just glad I can communicate with people who understand those references and just don't look at me like, what?
My favorite, and sometimes this can be seen as a bad thing, but my favorite Star Trek movie is The Voyage Home, because I think it is the funniest of all the
Agreed.
Star Trek movies.
I love it.
When Scotty picks up the mouse to use it as a speaker, hello computer. I find everything about that. Or when Bones is in the hospital and that woman is on kidney dialysis, he goes, oh, barbaric.
Yes. And the whales are on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like a tuna roll that's invading the... that is, I think, one of my favorite ones, too. Because everybody loves time travel. you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
It's hard. I mean, Time Cop may be the worst one, but it's hard to find a bad.
It's like pizza, though, right? Like,
yes.
even when it's bad, it's good.
Oh, here you go.
Okay.
So we are now on Highway 10.
Also, when did they redo the
Opus Treasure
Target
Road.
in Dilworth, huh? Look at that.
Oh,
Holy
yeah.
smokes.
I think it's just a new facade.
Now open.
Target Boutique.
You see Target too?
Target Boutique.
Oh, interesting.
So there's all these fun little other menus that I have up on the screen right now. and
More
I can-
cowbell is one of them.
I can doodle and you know.
Green light.
So you can like write yourself a note. Oh Jesus! Like getting to 50 miles an hour.
That was fast.
Is instantaneous. Oh,
Anyways, with the doodle pad, I can hit publish and I can send it to Tesla for critique.
So now,
So,
how is someone going to drive through a neighborhood all noisy? How are they going to do that anymore?
I have a I don't think this is copywritten, so let me see if I can get it here. What I like to do personally is I go into my I have a little USB stick here. So if I go down and I can just I can put this on and then now I feel a little better.
that's nice. Makes you feel like it.
If it's not picking up on the microphones, he's literally playing tractor sounds through the dash.
Which is the best one I can find. So yeah, there is it's the perfect no curfew vehicle,
Nice.
or the perfect break curfew vehicle, I should say, where they don't hear you coming home at night.
So, is the plan to hold on to this and then your next vehicle becomes another Tesla? Is it time to
Yes.
replace that?
Yeah, mine. It will be electric regardless, and it will be Tesla. Although I have zero plans of replacing this vehicle, just based on the longevity that they have been proven to run for. So, I don't even see necessarily that far in advance to see myself necessarily changing it, just because of how much I love this vehicle. I love everything it gives me. And the longevity that these vehicles can go for, just because there's such a significant reduction in things that can go wrong in comparison to other vehicles.
What about other vehicles in your home? Like, do you still want to hold on to a gas-powered vehicle for right now, or you know, like in 2 years, are you gonna have a serious conversation, say like, well, geez,
For right now, I think the secondary vehicle is all dependent on the on how quickly charging stations begin to materialize, especially in North Dakota and Upper Minnesota, for example. And they're coming. We're supposed to actually get a Tesla supercharger at West Acres.
Really?
Supposedly by the end of the year. Alexandria is supposed to get one. Grand Forks is supposed to get one. Pembina is supposed to get one, along with Dickinson. So our second vehicle, my wife drives an Audi hybrid SUV. And so we will eventually replace that once it comes to the point where we can, and you can hit it too.
I was
Jump
saying,
up
like,
there.
okay,
Go.
so
Go.
we're at 45. This is how long it takes to get to 65. There! Oh, I like this. Okay, so how do I enact the cruise control on this?
So you want to, we'll auto drive because that's always
Okay.
fun. So go ahead, and there's a stalk below your turn signal there.
Okay.
Do that twice towards you. And just let it drive.
We are now being driven by a computer.
Oh, man. It's doing better at staying centered on the lanes than I was.
And what it's doing is the camera is actually picking up the lanes and understanding where the center is and where it needs to be. It will flash at you to say, put your hands on the wheel, because I want to make. And I tell people it wants to make sure you're still with us. So if you don't do that, it'll come to a stop and put the flashers on. And,
Really?
yep.
Do you have to be at 10 and 2?
No,
put your
you
hands
just
on?
need to
Just to have some kind of a presence on it?
You don't even have to have a presence right now. It'll tell you when you need to address it. So now you just let it run, and it'll sense the traffic around you. It'll sense curves. Always be mindful, and I relate this back to aviation in that pilots nowadays, they turn on autopilot, but they still need to be aware of what's in front of them in case. And that's why we will have autonomous vehicles, but I do feel there will always be that human backup in case Johnny Five
Right.
goes on the run.
Now, JJ, are you doing
Apply
anything
light
right
force
now?
to the steering wheel.
Yep. So just give it a. There you go. You're
Oh,
good.
look at that. Huh.
Now you can let go again.
I am sitting here. My feet are off the gas and ignition. I'm not touching the steering wheel. It's maintaining, and this hasn't been a perfectly straight road. There have been little slight variations that it has accounted for. It is keeping us centered. It's keeping us at the exact speed. It's also noting that the max speed limit right now is 65, so we are full legal across the board. Apply light force to the steering wheel. And so why is it asking for that?
To make sure you're still with us.
Just-
You haven't passed on.
I
or-
haven't fallen asleep.
You haven't
and-
passed on, or fallen asleep.
Now, let's say you didn't do that. Let's say you had fallen asleep.
It
What
would-
does it do?
It'll start dinging, and then if you are if you're in a deep slumber, it's going to bring the car to a complete stop and put on the flashers.
And will it, like on the side of the road, will it adjust over, or will it stop in the middle?
It'll stop in the middle
of the
is
road.
one. So don't sleep and drive.
But I'm guessing it's not going to slam on the brakes and do that either.
No, I mean, and here's the thing. Basically, what we would have to do is, and we can do that if you can find a road where it would be safe to do so. Because here it's a little.
How are we doing on time
A little
up there?
busy.
6:05?
We're good.
Yeah.
So it'll come to a complete stop. But I'm getting back to what you were saying. My dependency on, or my plan to buy another electric vehicle will depend on the rollout of the chargers. Although I am so insanely tempted to get, and there's a lot of wonderful people who have gone completely electric, but it is very lifestyle dependent. So I have no doubt we will be an all electric family in the near future, as the chargers roll out, and as we go there. Right now we're kind of electric and a half with the hybrid, so we're getting there.
I mean, I feel like we are in the future. I feel like this is the next step of the evolution of commuting, the next step in the evolution of shipping. Let's talk about a game changer. Do you know if Tesla's working on something to replace a semi truck?
They are. They have semis and Walmart,
Autonomous semis.
Yeah, Walmart has bought them. There's or has put an order in. Excuse me. A number of major shipping companies have put in orders for the Tesla SUV, and where that is amazing is, like I said, as we roll out the chargers, there are so many shipping companies that have the in-town trucks that they basically return to base every night, and that is absolutely where we can see a huge game changer in shifting over to the electric vehicles. And to boost those operations, they put a solar cell on their roof to assist with their charging ability. They have come out with a electric SUV in 2 models, long range and in town.
Now we're slowing down, JJ. Did you do that, or
I did.
Okay.
Yep,
did you just press your foot on the brake?
I did.
Okay.
Acts the same way as just like
Cruise
control, basically.
And so, and the only reason is because I know the cops in Clinton. I really love to give tickets.
Well, so now, what would it have done, Bill, had he not done that?
You would have, in this particular model, it would have kept just cruising right along, but you would have seen that speed limit sign flash up and say, hey,
Got it.
Now,
would this vehicle be able to drive itself in town, or is it only like on a stretch road for like a cruise control replacement? In this model?
Ideally, it is this is autopilot one, so ideally it is a point and shoot cruise control type scenario. But you can absolutely do it in town. The caveat being it doesn't recognize stoplights or street signs.
Those are important.
That is coming. But say there was a vehicle in front of me that had stopped at the stoplight, it would have brought the vehicle to a complete stop behind that vehicle.
Do not recognize the authority of your stoplight.
Well, Bill Brooks, our guest today, is also the big man with the Tesla Owners Group here in North Dakota. This has been a really wonderful treat and an incredibly eye-opening experience as far as the electric vehicle and then the Tesla itself. Thank you so much for being our first guest to make a second appearance. Thank you for letting me drive your Tesla. And you weren't even a backseat driver. You weren't trying to like,
I let the Tesla do it for me.
you have a lot of fun driving this, don't you?
Love it. Absolutely love it. I cannot recommend it enough.
Look, okay, that Glendon cop is pulling that guy over right there. I told you, they hate speeders in this town. Thanks, Tesla. You really helped me out on this one. Bill, if people are interested in purchasing a Tesla, what's the advice? What's the first step?
First step, get online, go ahead and take a look at Tesla.com. See what your options are, see what works for your particular budget. Otherwise, of course, if you're looking for a used one, Tesla.com also has certified used vehicles that come with additional warranty. They can see that there. Or check other sites, Vroom, Car Gurus, Car Soup even. It's just a matter of start with the Tesla website, understand what is available, especially through Tesla, and then go from there and get ready for the revolution.
Awesome. And then if people want to see this, how often is it parked outside of Fargo Pinball here in Fargo?
It's parked quite often outside of Fargo Pinball, especially in the evenings. But we are looking at doing another Meet Tesla Day for the FM community coming up this fall. We're looking at either late September, early October. So we will put, especially through Fargo Pinball, we'll try to host it there. Unless there's another business in town that would be interested in hosting, we will get the information out there. So people can come out and take a test drive. They can sit in it. They can feel it. We are so often in our cars, you really need that tactile experience to understand, it's a part of us.
At a Meet Tesla, like, are people allowed to get behind the wheel of these things? How many Teslas show up at it?
Well, we had, I want to say we had 7 or 8 at our last meetup, and we give the test drives. And so if it is something that an individual maybe wants to change out,
as we pull up,
I was going to say, no, I'm not going to just pull up.
stop at a gas pump.
But yeah, no, if someone is absolutely interested, you can schedule a test drive in Minneapolis at the Tesla service. So pushing on right there.
Oh.
At the service center in Minneapolis at the dealership, or the Tesla, I shouldn't say dealership, but at the center down there, you can absolutely test drive one. But yeah, it's the look on your face when you punched it that it's like, this thing is, you got to be kidding me. This is
legit. I like it. Bill Brooks, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Who do I tell so that you get the bump back on this when I buy my Tesla?
Elon Musk.
Okay, fantastic.
So you can reach him I think it's at Elon Musk on Twitter.
I keep bugging him because I've missed the sale on those flamethrowers, and I wanted one really bad.
I wanted one just to melt the ice off my walk.
I know, right? That'll be the third time you're coming on, we're talking about trim. The
Done.
fourth time, we'll talk about flamethrowers.
I'm going to have one by then. It's just a matter of time.
I like that. All right, thanks, man.
JJ Meets World.
Well, road fans, that does it for this episode. Thank you very much for listening to JJ Meets World. And we have a favor to ask. If you want to help us keep the lights on around here, we really would appreciate a donation. Your donation goes to things like our studio space, improving our equipment, the availability to bring in certain guests, and finally hang the poster that says best podcast in the world that Tucker's mom made us. So if you are interested in donating to our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/JJMeetsWorld. Patreon's unique because you can set up a single gift or you can set up an ongoing gift. So maybe you say, gosh, I'm going to give these guys $2 a month. That's what this podcast is worth to me. I'm getting 8 episodes over 8 hours of content every month. That's worth $2. That's fantastic. We appreciate it. The goal is 100 people like us for $2 worth and one person likes us for $5,000 worth. That's the end goal. You can go to patreon.com/JJMeetsWorld to donate. Thank you very much to our donors who are already on there. We appreciate this so much. We're trying to figure out a way to thank you in a way that doesn't seem as creepy as the previous gifts we've sent you. We're working on it. If you want to stay up to date on previous episodes of JJ Meets World, you can go to jjmeetsworld.com. We've got all the episodes hosted there. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes, so it'll repopulate every month, or any of those podcast services that you guys are using. Every download counts. Even if you don't listen to it, just download it and let it play through at night on silent. That's fine. Everyone counts, you guys. If you want to check up with my producer, Tucker Lucas, you can find him at moonbasemaria.com. If you want to check out my contact info, you go to linebenders.com. And I guess last but certainly not least, he did not check my ID before we got in that car. And that makes me feel a little uncomfortable. And I'm thinking about telling him to get a checklist together because I could have been the world's #1 Tesla thief.